expects of you too. So today, someone said to me over the weekend, "Well, you talked about the employer, the employee, and that has to do with the office. But we leave somewhere and we have to stand from there and go to the workplace." So I thought about it. So this week we're going to be treating the rights of the landlord, rights, and then so we just know the rights that we're working on, and so that you know what to seek a redress from, so that we're not just shouting. We tenant. Sometimes we know how to just shout anything. If they just take light, you say landlord cost it. They just block something. Your neighbor did something, you just blame your landlord. And most times we also have landlords that are quite troublesome and cantankerous. Don't. Oh my God! If you have your landlord living in the same compound. Oh God, it's only God that it's only God and speaking in tongues that can help you in that matter. I can't help you. Nobody can help you in that matter. But with this, you're welcome to Prosumers Forum. Like I said earlier, we're going to be talking about the rights of the landlord. Different state laws, different federal laws have protected the tenants on right to privacy, right to theft, right not to be evicted without notice. A lot of laws have been worked out for the tenant, but there are also laws that have been worked out for the landlord, so that it's not just the tenant that has been covered, but the owner of the property also has his right. And we're going to be dealing with it today. Take a quick short break so that you get yourself ready, get your pen and paper ready for all the tenants, all the landlords, they just want to learn about this. Get ready, get your bootstraps ready. When I come back from the break, we will be delving into the main issue, and God willing, we will be having Barrister Adana in the house to talk to us about the legal ramifications of all these laws and probably the salient and exclusive laws that are hidden that we don't know about.
Human Rights Radio.
My country people, I throw salute come reach una for this beautiful day wey Baba God dey allow all of us see. This na talk camp for your language. Our Oyinbo people talk say unity in diversity focuses on the existence of unity even after lots of differences of culture, religious and social beliefs. No be small thing o. Nigeria na country where God don bless with different boku languages, and then talk say we get over 520 languages where we dey speak for this our Nigeria. My people, which one you follow join body? You sabi speak your language, abi English don sama your brain. Oh yeah, make una follow call. Make you tell us where you dey from and the language where you dey speak. Make una speak that language, no use English mix am. If you do am, na oyo be your case. Talk camp for your language. Na the ogbonge program wey go showcase the plenty languages wey full ground for Naija with ordinary president on Human Rights Radio 101.1. Make sure say you follow body.
Human Rights Radio.
Bringing together Nigeria's producers, consumers, and the regulatory bodies, discussing their challenges and common goals. The question of who gets value from the service provider to the final consumer remains unanswered. But we've got the answer. What are the rights and limitations of you, the consumer? What are the rights and limitations of you, the consumer, the producer, and even the regulator in today's Nigeria? Don't miss Prosumer Forum on Human Rights Radio, 101.1 FM. This is your magazine radio station. Listen.
It's only today that my daughter gets just to eat food.
Past 2 months now, you be your shop selling before you know your child will disappear.
Listen.
My own. That is what is killing us. They demolish everything. They burn all our things. Even my credentials, even my children own. Up to the extent, no clothes, nothing.
Government cannot give us everything we want. And as a youth, the little you have, you can use it to establish yourself.
Given a voice to the voiceless. Voices. 101.1 FM. Listen.
From the invasion of privacy, theft of security deposits and other protections, there have been a lot of laws that protect the tenant. But today we are talking about the landlord, because the landlord still owns the building and typically pays a lot of bills that still is connected from the building. And landlords also most times have a lot at stake when entering into rental agreements. Most state laws, local government laws, or federal laws work to protect their investment. So today's topic is going to be dealing with legal information and tips on legal issues related to renting, for landlords renting out their residential property to a tenant, lease agreements, evictions, property repairs, return of deposits, and lots more. The first thing we need to talk to about landlords is that you need to learn how to, you need to work out how to manage your property properly first, so that you don't rent out a property that is old and degraded first and foremost. Let's deal with that. Because sometimes, just because the cost of renting out a 2-bedroom building on the street is 2 million, is going for 2 million, but then you see these houses are clean, neat, and well maintained, but just because your house has been there, it was built in 1934, but it's been there and you've tried to paint it a bit, but you still want to rent it out for 2 million, it doesn't work. So one of the things that I want landlords to learn to do is to manage their properties so that your property can be sellable, can be environmentally friendly, so that when you decide to put a price tag on that, you will be fair to all the parties involved. There will be a lot of tips to help landlords manage their property while avoiding legal issues, including advice on avoiding discriminatory practices and putting all agreements into writing, regularly inspecting your property, and a lot more. If possible, we can also deal with 10 landlord legal mistakes to avoid, and frequent common questions about landlord-tenant disputes. We will be treating that too. One of the questions that I got also when I decided to talk of this topic is, does the landlord need a reason to terminate the rent or the lease at the expiration of the term? Well, a landlord may typically terminate a lease without reason at the expiration of the lease term. But these are things we want to be able to work on. Like I said, I need you to get yourself ready for these questions. I'll also open the phone line a little bit quite early so that you can be part of this conversation. This is not just going to be a me conversation. Like I said, Barrister Dana will also be here to give us legal points to this conversation. A lot of landlords are busy saying right now, tell them. Yes, I'm talking to you too, tenant, because you just never might know. Tomorrow you are going to become a landlord. I know that. You should know that you are going to become a landlord, and then this will also be for your sake. So when we're talking about landlords, don't just say, well, it's not me, I'm a tenant, it's for the landlords. No, I'm talking about you too, because tomorrow you're going to be a landlord, you're going to own properties which you're going to want to rent out, and you need to know these are your rights. Just a very short quick break again, just to allow Barrister Dana come in and so we can talk. Then we get right into the show. Okay?
We are the joy of our nation. We are the unity of our nation. We are the makers of our heritage. We X-ray topical national issues and the trending matters of our time. Examined, dissected, and analyzed. With our team of analysts, you can be sure of an incisive discourse. 9 a.m., Mondays to Fridays. X-ray on Human Rights Radio, 101.1 FM, Abuja.
Shin kana so ka san kina so ki san labarai da batutuwa da dumudumin su da ke faruwa a masana'antar Kannywood ta fina-finan Hausa game da taurari a fina-finan na Hausa da ma jaruman mawaƙan Hausa da har ma da dukkanin wani mai ruwa da tsaki a harkar ta fina-finan Hausa, kama daga darakta, producer ko kyamaraman ne, har ma da lightman masu haska wuta da kuma masu make-up gwanaye na ado. To kawai kasance da gidan rediyon kare haƙƙin jama'a na Human Rights Radio a kan mita 101.1 a kowace rana ta Litinin daga misalin karfe 1 rana zuwa karfe 2. Shirin 'yan fim da fina-finai na Human Rights Radio mita 101.1 don haskaka duniyar Kano.
As a business owner, you may be asking yourself for reasons why you should advertise with Human Rights Radio. Well, I will give you 5. 1. We operate a 24-hour Facebook TV that accommodates all our shows and with 50,000 views per show. 2. All around the world, millions of people tune into our station live on our Human Rights Radio app, available on Android and iOS. 3. We are employing over 2,000 conversers ready to attend to all your advertising needs. 4. With our very affordable rates, you are guaranteed the best value for your money. 5. We go beyond radio and can be found on all other social media platforms, including Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Periscope, proving that while other stations enjoy listenership, we enjoy followership. The question shouldn't be reasons why you should advertise with Human Rights Radio. The real question is reasons why you haven't. Welcome to Nigeria's first magazine radio, Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM, redefining broadcasting.
Well, first of all, in Nigeria, all lands are vested on the 36 governors of the state of the Federation as guaranteed in the Land Use Act of 1978. Consequently, the governors hold the whole land in trust for the people except those owned by the federal government and its agencies. Owing to this fact, a governor can only grant a right of occupancy for a certain period of time. A governor does this by issuing a certificate of occupancy, CFO, to individuals of not less than 18 years old and registered bodies, that is companies, corporations, and all that. A foreigner has all the rights to purchase and own a land in any part of Nigeria. In the common parlance, an individual or a registered body on whom a right of occupancy is vested on is referred to as a landlord. Furthermore, a person who owns a house or store, a warehouse, or a park is equally referred to as a landlord. In adhering to rules of English language, a feminine landlord is referred to as a landlady. And in a bid to provide a peaceful and enviable society, Nigeria has, through her laws and conventions, accorded a lot of rights to landlords, although not without some duties. Some of the rights of a landlord are: 1, right to own a property in any part of Nigeria. A landlord has a right to own any property in any part of Nigeria. Hence, all citizens of Nigeria have the right to buy, purchase, acquire, inherit, retain, own, maintain, and use a land located in any part of Nigeria. It does not matter whether one is Igbo, Hausa, Efik, or Yoruba, indigenous or non-indigenous. And just like any other fundamental rights provided for under our Constitution, you can seek for its enforcement in a high court or a federal court. All landlords are entitled to their property and the safety of their property in any part of Nigeria. Don't let indigenous revolting tenants intimidate you. You don't owe them anything. So don't just go and stay in ignorance. As long as you have that property, you have the right to the safety of the property. Also, secondly, every landlord has the right against compulsory acquisition of property. Well, I'm going to be allowing Barrister Danek walk straight into the studio so that she can give us all about that conversation, because you see what? I think she does the legal part better. Forget all that, fineness and all that. She does the legal conversations better. We're talking about right against compulsory acquisition of property. It means that the landlord is aware that you don't just go confiscating other people's property. You have to another person can also not just go and acquire your property. This is Dr. Barrister Dana working right in to help us do the legal justice to this, a better justice to this.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, Barrister Dana. I know I had to pull you up for something very quickly. So today we're talking about the rights of a landlord. You know how it has always been the tenant against the landlord. Tenants are always the one that say, "This landlord, say wicked landlord, I can't do this. I am tired of this land. What kind of landlord is this?" You know, we're always complaining, but we forget that landlords are human beings like us, also who also have
their own personal problems.
Yes, and they also have risk invested in the property because they own the property. You know, they put in money and all that. It's an investment which they need to, you know, get back. So they also have their own rights. Things are right?
Yeah, they do. They have their own rights. Yes, this issue you just talked about, it's like that because there's been some kind of undue attachment to property, especially in the African society, where they consider the supremacy on the property on the person who owns the property. So there's been so much power that has been accrued to a landlord, especially in the African fair, and that has made it difficult for the law to protect the landlord as much as the tenant is protected. However, the tenant had taken advantage of this protection that the law had given to them, because the law is aware that, well, the tenant doesn't own the property, the landlord does, so they have to exercise a lot of power over them. So they are trying to cope all of that power that most landlords had abused in exercising because of their property.
Okay, quickly, so that I don't cut you short again. One of the questions that that I'm frequently asked in this landlord-tenant issue is that, you know how when a tenant enters into landlord's house, and by the time they leave, the house just looks like was that there were 6 million people in the house. Sometimes, you take a house from a landlord for yourself or for residential use, and then the landlord comes back a year later, find out that you've turned it into a business or a commercial purposes, and you've even demarcated his house. You've just done a lot of things,
Now, that's where the right of a landlord comes in. The landlord has a right to determine the terms of agreement or the terms of a lease between him and the tenant. And there he sets out the policies that that should guide his property. He sets out the money that is expected of the tenant to pay as rent or whatever bills that it's applicable in the area or the house or the property. So of course the landlord has rights like that to cope situations like that. Like I was earlier saying, a lot of tenants had used the position of the law that has been set to protect them to abuse the landlord's property, especially in Abuja. You see tenants who stay in houses for more than 3 years, 4 years, and they don't pay rent. And it's not like they don't have that money to pay, but because they are aware that the law protects the interests of the tenants, and it might not be very favorable for the landlord, because the law had made that phrase or that position of law for the tenant to be able to acquire their own place, and then for them not to be treated unfairly. But then the tenant had taken advantage of that. So the landlord is not totally protected. So that's why a landlord right now has a right to make a choice of the people that should move into his house, his apartment. He also have a right to change his house or renovate it, like change the position of his house or renovate it. He has a right to set out those terms I said earlier, and then the policies that should guide the house. That's why there's tenancy agreements. So that if this person defaults to the contract they have signed with the landlord can sue and tell the position of the law that the tenant had not conformed with their agreement.
Okay, what are in situations? This is quick before we start to run down on the rights of the landlord. In situations where the government just moves in and acquires, just like a strong, how in the Bible that Nabotic vineyard where the strong man just goes in and just collects the vineyard of the poor man, where the government just says, you know what, I want this property, and they take it. There's no compensation. There's no form of prompt notice to say, well, we would like to use this if it is possible. What sort of agreement can we come to? Is there going to be a form of settlement, for certain things like this? No, the government says they want to use it, and then they come and take it.
The Land Use Act had made provision for issues like that. And then there are laid down rules and procedures the person should go through in acquisition of property. Now, there are certain documents that you must have to ascertain your ownership of a property, where if you don't have such documents like certificate of occupancy, you should have that certified by the...
Let me just cut you short there. We'll take a very short commercial break. When we come back, we can continue with that answer. Remember, this is Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. Do stay tuned.
Are you looking for a stimulating working environment with exciting projects and an amazing 100,000 naira salary? For full details on how to apply, visit www.mylearningacademy.com and check the announcement page for more details. My Learning Academy, your reliable online learning educational partner. www.mylearningacademy.com.
Human Rights Radio.
All right, welcome back to Human Rights Radio. We are here on 101.1 FM. Yes, just tune it. That's it. That's me here. 101.1 FM. It's cold, but it's fantastic. I know. President might not agree with that, but I love my office because when you just come out from the sun, you can just, there's one thing I expect coming into the office is that no matter how hot the sun is out there, this is making me feel very, like all this Igbo, our Igbo talk will not say no matter how hot the sun is, when you enter my office, you shall be cold. Okay, so this is Prosumers Forum. Let's not digress. We're talking about the rights of the landlord and how it's not just the tenant who is protected. There are also laws that protect the landlord. And we're talking about the compulsory acquisition of property, by the government.
So, like I was saying earlier, the Land Use Act has provided a procedure that a person must go through to acquire lands to themselves or have properties or interest in the property transferred to them legally. And then if you go through the lay down procedures, you won't have to battle with the government on compensation if they must acquire your property for any use. And you will know that you're certainly going to get a compensation if you have the proper documents duly registered with the appropriate authorities. But then when you don't have all that put in place, then you start having a problem with compensation and the issue of compulsory acquisition of your property without being compensated. So like you likely talked about, issues concerning compulsory acquisition of property are laid down in the Land Use Act, and then some real estate laws, and you have to get a lawyer who knows them very well to interpret them to you and tell you the proper documents that you have to use or the proper documents that must be exchanged if the property is passed to you, or if you must totally own the property to yourself, so that if government have to acquire this property, then you can know whether you're entitled to compensation or not.
But I know that in cases where the land is acquired, the land can only be compulsorily acquired for when the government wants to use it for public use. That's in case of
then you're going to be paid compensation.
Compensation. So the landlord has a right to compensation.
Oh yeah, he has a right to compensation.
Okay. So what other right does a landlord have?
Well, a landlord has a right that is unlimited for him to evict a tenant that has caused him problems in the property, or a tenant that is not doing in accordance, doing the things they had agreed in the terms of the contract. So if a tenant should breach the terms of the contract, the landlord has a right to evict the tenants. Then the landlord has a right to set the terms of the agreement. The landlord also have a right to renovate his property. That is it for now.
So that's the right of the landlord.
It's very limited.
Wow.
Yeah, these ones I mentioned are not limited. Yeah, his non-limited right. Or set the lease terms.
Okay,
one of his rights.
so in putting it this way, do we think that we need to review some of our laws to be able to, provide more, or do you think that there are certain rights that should be accrued to a landlord that have not been accrued to landlord?
Okay. Well, yeah, I think so. Though they've been dispute tribunals that have been established to curb these issues of tenants abusing the rights that the laws have made for them, or protected them from the landlord. However, I think there should be more laws to protect the rights of landlord, because the rights of landlord have been trampled on lately in our society. The tenant had taken the advantage of the landlord on so many occasions. So I think, they should go beyond just protecting the tenant right now. Fairness should be applied in protecting the landlord as well as the tenants.
That's what I'm saying. So is there any issue, probably like a frequently asked question, or someone has always brought to your case? I know you're not in that, that's not your sphere, but then do you think that there should be actually room? But it seems that the tenant is the one who gets more laws. If you check now, there's so many laws, so many rights to the tenant.
Yeah, there have been a lot of issues.
For example, right for his property not to be destroyed. The landlord doesn't.
That should be part of the agreements, the tenancy agreements between the landlord and the tenants. If you include it there, you can actually go to courts and claim damages.
Okay.
And then some other issues where the tenants do not pay rent. That one, it's a frequent issue. A lot of people have that problem. They have tenants that refuse to pack out of their properties, and they had refused to pay rents. There are issues that should be looked at on, and they should be addressed with adherence to the provisions of the law. And certain laws should also be put in place so that if you're a tenant and you're parking into this property, there should be fear in you. Now, tenants don't even mind.
Fear?
Yes, there should be fear in you to know that in as much as the law fights for you, it also fights for the landlord. And I'm saying this because tenants park into properties now. You give them tenancy agreements with all of those policies. They don't care. They sign it because they know even if they want to leave more than a year after paying for a year's rent in your house, nothing will happen. And if you take them to the courts, the procedure might take longer, and you the landlord, have to even spend money more than what the tenants had even paid to you, or more than what the tenant is owing you.
But
to pursue the case.
I know that the landlord has a right to issue a 7 days notice.
Of course, the notices are like obligations the landlord owns the tenants. You issue the notices, the 7 days owner's intention to recover possession. You issue the notices, the 6 months notice, 3 months notice, depending on the terms of the agreement or the terms of lease or rent that you've agreed with the tenants. However, tenants don't even understand that notice or the notices issued to them. Whether they're being issued notices or not, when these disputes are taken to court, they tend to last longer period. And at the point they are lasting like that, you're claiming arrears and rents and the so forth of you're claiming all of that in court. It takes a while before all of that is resolved. The tenants will not be asked to leave your property while the matter is in court. It doesn't work that way.
But do you think that landlords can seek a redress in the form of, while you are signing the tenancy agreement with the tenant or proposed tenant, to say, should in case, this case, we won't take it to court, I will just evict you?
No, there's a law that should be adhered to.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, because of what is currently going on, how you are. I get the place where a tenant is not able to fulfill the next year's rent and has a conversation with the landlord to say, you know what, give me some time and all that. But in the case where, the landlord is saying, well, it's 1 year over, it's either you renew your rent or you let me know or you leave. And the person says, okay, give me 2 months. And the landlord's like, okay, great. After 2 months, the landlord's like, what's going on? You're not even saying anything to me. Like, oh, give me another 3 months. That's 5 months. Give me another 1 month. That's 6 months.
That's what really happens.
Yeah. So because we can understand the nature of our economy, we can understand the nature of human beings. We need to work that in. If you don't work in the nature, as a landlord, if you don't work in the nature of your economy or the society that you live in, you would just be, you would give yourself high BP.
You know,
because
Nigerians
are not people that really listen at the first instance.
What you're asking for, would have been very good for the landlords, but then that is you know, putting the power in the hands of landlord like it used to be. You know?
No, it's not any power. The conversation here is you paid me for 1 year.
Okay.
And after 1 year, you should renew. I can understand if you have an agreement with the landlord to say, well, you know, give me 2 months or 3 months, which is verbal, and the landlord gives you. But there is a written agreement that says when the landlord says to you, well, I don't want any more, you can go. No legal, no court. If you want to leave, you leave. If you don't want to leave in my house, then you can go. But let's hold that thought. We're going for a call to prayer. When we do come back, we'll delve into this conversation because I know a lot of people, their blood is boiling. They're calling me already to want to understand what is Tracy saying. They should chase me from my house. We'll be right back. Do stay tuned.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول